Looking for a tough pickup? Think again. These three old trucks are so bad, they'll make you laugh and wonder what the designers were thinking. Welcome to the wildest fails in pickup history. 1. The Reliant TW9. Ant. When three wheels are too many. Let's dive into the first disaster on our list, the Reliant TW9, better known as the Reliant Ant, the pickup truck that somehow lost a wheel and still thought it could handle the job. When you imagine a British pickup, you probably picture something reliable, maybe even a bit classy. Well, the Ant laughed at that idea and decided to wobble into history instead. Believe it or not, this rolling oddity stuck around from 1967 all the way to 1987, 20 years of what can only be described as a vehicular circus act. It's proof that no matter how questionable your design is, there's always someone willing to give it a shot. Now, the Reliant Ant wasn't your average pickup failure. It was basically a three-wheeled machine trying to balance the stability of a unicycle with the hauling power of a shopping cart. Imagine riding a bike with a grocery bag full of bricks balanced behind you, and that's pretty close. Power-wise, it ran on a tiny 701 cubic centimeter engine, pumping out 27.5 horsepower. That's less than what you'd expect from most lawnmowers. It could hit a top speed of 54 miles per hour, which sounds all right until you remember it's on three wheels. Driving that fast was basically asking for a crash test fail in real time. One Quartz reader nailed it. Count the wheels. You know how unstable the Reliant Robin was? Now imagine that with a truck bed full of stuff. For those who don't know, the Robin was the Ant's three-wheeled sibling famous for tipping over if you breathed near it. So yeah, the Ant was a rolling physics experiment doomed from the start. The genius design put the single wheel right at the front, under the engine. Basically, all the weight was on one tiny tire. It's like someone ignored basic physics and said, let's see what happens. Despite all this, the Ant somehow got snapped up by city councils across the UK and Ireland. Dublin even bought 60 of them for municipal work in the 70s, which honestly makes you wonder about their procurement process. It came in lots of versions: pickup, van, water tanker, garbage truck, drain cleaner, and even a snowplow. Yes, a snowplow. Because nothing says winter readiness like a three-wheeled truck that can barely stay upright on dry roads. And if you thought it couldn't get worse, the seats were just fixed cushions with zero adjustments. So not only was it unstable and slow, it was uncomfortable too. Truly a masterpiece of bad design. In the end, the Reliant Ant is a perfect example of how a good idea can turn into a hilarious disaster. It's unstable, underpowered, and downright uncomfortable, yet somehow it earned a place in automotive history as one of the most amusing fails ever. 2. The Subaru Baja, the mullet of motor vehicles. If the Reliant Ant was a comedy of errors, then the Subaru Baja was a tragedy of good intentions gone spectacularly sideways. Made from 2003 to 2006, the Baja was Subaru's bold attempt to create a hybrid between a car and a pickup truck. The idea? Appeal to folks who wanted the utility of a truck without losing the comfort of a car. The reality? Well, it ended up being the worst of both worlds. A vehicle with the ground clearance and cargo space of a car, but the fuel efficiency and performance of a truck, or rather, the lack thereof. Imagine taking a Subaru Legacy wagon and hacking off the rear half, then gluing on a tiny, laughably small truck bed just 41.5 inches long. That's not a truck bed, it's barely a tray. You could fit more stuff in the trunk of a compact sedan. If you ever tried loading groceries bigger than a couple of paper bags, you'd be out of luck, especially if the tailgate was up. It's like Subaru said, here's your pickup, but only if your idea of hauling is a couple of takeout boxes. But Subaru wasn't done with its clever engineering tricks. They added what they called the switchback system, which let you fold down the rear passenger seat and open a small hatch in the bed, extending the cargo length to about 7.5 feet. Sounds brilliant, right? Only if you're fine with turning your four-seat vehicle into a two-seater. So to carry longer stuff, you had to sacrifice two passengers. It's like telling your friends, hey, want to come for a ride? Sure, but only if you don't mind sitting on the curb. One Reddit user who actually lived the Baja life summed it up brutally. I owned one, it was terrible. The bed was useless, it was gutless, got mediocre fuel mileage, had unremarkable ground clearance, and only sat four. That's not just disappointment talking. That's a war veteran speaking from the trenches of Baja ownership. Subaru claimed the Baja's design took inspiration from rally race trucks, with senior designer Peter Ten saying the car's jarring look was meant to be a funky homage to those rugged racers. Sure, it was funky and different, all right, but more like a confused teenager going through an awkward phase than a sleek off-road beast. It looked like it couldn't decide if it wanted to be a truck or a car, and ended up being neither. Under the hood, the Baja offered a base, naturally aspirated 4-cylinder engine that moved with all the enthusiasm of watching paint dry. There was a turbocharged version, but even that couldn't save the Baja from being stuck in an awkward middle ground. Its unibody construction made it ride more like a car than a truck, which might sound like a good thing, until you realize that ride quality came at the expense of truck-like capability. The Baja couldn't tow much, couldn't haul much, and despite Subaru's famous all-wheel drive system, it wasn't a champion off-roader either. Maybe the biggest failure of all was the Baja's inability to find its audience. Subaru aimed for buyers who wanted something unique, something that didn't fit into traditional vehicle categories. Instead, most people just wanted a vehicle that was good at something, whether that was hauling, towing, off-roading, or just plain getting from point A to B without looking ridiculous or breaking down. In the end, the Subaru Baja joined the ranks of automotive oddities. It's a reminder that sometimes trying to be everything at once just makes you the punchline, a quirky experiment that fell flat but left us laughing at what could have been. If only Subaru had stuck to making wagons instead of whimsical truck hybrids. 3. The Chevrolet SSR, when retro goes rogue. If the Reliant Ant was a comedy and the Subaru Baja a tragedy, then the Chevrolet SSR was an absolute horror show. The kind of nightmare where a major automaker spends millions crafting a vehicle nobody asked for and everyone instantly regretted. Launched in 2003 and mercifully discontinued by 2006, the SSR, which stood for Super Sport Roadster, though it was neither super sporty nor really a roadster, was Chevy's ambitious yet baffling attempt to merge three wildly different trends: retractable hardtop convertibles, pickup trucks, and retro styling. These elements had zero chemistry together, like trying to whip up a sandwich with ice cream, hot sauce, and concrete. Automotive critics didn't hold back. Top Gear nailed the SSR's identity crisis perfectly. They said, "This apparent inability to understand the Oxford comma sadly resulted in Chevrolet unleashing the SSR on a frankly bemused public in late 2003. The design was described as a Dali-esque fever dream from almost every angle. What was meant to evoke the nostalgic charm of post-World War II Chevrolet advanced design pickups instead looked like the product of a computer glitch, mashing vintage lines with confused modernity. The retractable hardtop system consumed so much space that the truck bed was essentially a glorified shelf, less useful than many sports cars for hauling anything." Performance was the SSR's second tragedy. Beneath its retro curves lay a 5.3-liter V8 engine, which should have delivered decent muscle, but the SSR struggled to crack 8 seconds in the 0 to 60 miles per hour sprint. To put that in context, many minivans accelerate faster. Why? Wait. All the heavy roof mechanisms plus its SUV-based platform pushed the SSR's curb weight past 4,700 pounds, more yacht than sports truck. It lumbered rather than leapt. Price was the third nail in the coffin. At launch, the SSR cost around $42,000, a jaw-dropping sum for a vehicle with middling performance and questionable utility. As Top Gear quipped, for which you could have had a decent pickup and a decent convertible, and a modicum of self-respect. The SSR's steep price tag made it a running joke among automotive fans. Pay top dollar for a car that can't quite do anything well. But the SSR's woes weren't limited to design, power, or price. Reliability was a mess. Consumer Reports revealed a long list of owner complaints, including overheating engines, transmission failures, and persistent electrical gremlins. The 2004 model year in particular was plagued with coolant leaks, catalytic converter issues, and other headaches that turned ownership into a frustrating experience. Instead of a joyful cruise, SSR drivers often faced costly repairs and roadside misery. One Reddit user summed it up brutally. They said, "I think when you look at the HHR SSR Crossfire PT Cruiser, you see what happens when marketing people design cars. The SSR wasn't born from pure engineering passion, but from focus groups and trend analysis, a Frankenstein's monster of every trendy automotive element without regard for whether those elements actually work together. These spectacular flops remind us that being unforgettable doesn't always mean being great. It just means daring to be different." So, which weird truck do you think takes the crown for being the worst? Drop your thoughts in the comments, smash that like button, and subscribe for more wild tales from the world of automotive history. Stay weird, gearheads.